We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully, your day is going well. It is Tuesday. We've had a great run of guests, and it continues today. We have Eric with us, and I really wanted to talk to Eric today because he's a details guy, and there's a lot of shit going on, and some people freaking out. And we'd like to break down what's really going on and why freaking out probably isn't necessary. So, how you doing, Eric? How you feeling about all that's went on today?
Doing pretty good. You're right. A lot of people are freaking out. Um, they have the end is near mentality every time Donald Trump does something. And as you and I have talked about, and you and all of your other guests have talked about, if there's one constant, Donald Trump fucks up. So he's going to
You will
fuck
always
this
fuck
up
it up.
somehow. Not sure how, but he will. I mean, it's not going to work. I know what he's trying to do, I think, but it's not going to work. He's trying to take over DC, making an attempt to see how it works against other cities, but the courts are going to step in. They're going to tell him to fuck off. When they start getting heat, Congress is going to maybe tell them, "Hey, wait a minute, back it off a little bit." Or as we talked about just right before we did this podcast, I could see a possibility where, in a couple of weeks, he shows some areas, some before and afters that they cleaned up. They just moved the homeless people out of that particular area, made it look a little better, and he's going to declare a sweeping victory and try to pump himself up with a huge win.
Well, yeah, and there's two reasons I think he's doing this. First of all, it's a distraction to Jeffrey Epstein. He wants that to go away. It's not happening. He wanted to release the grand jury transcripts. They said, nah, that's not going to happen because there isn't anything in there that we don't already know. But he's trying to distract from Epstein, or he's desperately trying to find something where he becomes, at least in his mind, popular. I think the polling is starting to get to him. So he needs to do something, anything to make himself popular. So, of course, he's going to make himself out to be a tough guy. But Donald Trump's already fucked up in this whole process because January 6, 2021, he tried to blame Nancy Pelosi for not bringing in the National Guard. He said, I couldn't do it. It's Nancy Pelosi. Yet here we are all those years later, and he has no problem deploying the National Guard. I see I see what he's doing in DC to me is low-hanging fruit. And here's what I mean. In any other state, he's going to have to go head to head with a governor. And he didn't do well against Gavin Newsom. He's still not doing well against Gavin Newsom. But the difference with DC is it's not a state, so there is no governor. And the Pentagon has full control, meaning him, has full control over the National Guard. So no one's going to push back on him doing it other than the public. And it was an easy win for him. The upside to this for me is everybody's worried about him declaring martial law. And some people think this is like martial law, not really, but kind of. Uh, if I'd rather have him fail in DC than do it through the whole country. So let's give him a fail here, and then we don't have to worry about that shit anymore. I could be wrong about that, but that's my thought.
Yeah, you are right. I think part of it is he's trying to uh, get that win. He's going to fail. We've established he fails all the time. He has complete control of the National Guard, unlike other states. Like you said, they have to deal with the governor, they have to deal with whatever. The DC Guard, as we have been saying for going on 4+ years, 4.5 years, are under direct control of the president.
Right.
But now you are going to watch the next week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, however long he this up. The Trumplefucks twist themselves and tie themselves into knots trying to defend his use of the guard now and him not using the guard in 2021 and trying to still blame Nancy Pelosi. And one thing I did a TikTok on it that I said is they're probably going to try to say is, well, Mike Johnson didn't step in the way because it's a Republican Speaker of the House.
Yeah.
And they'll probably try to give him a pass that way. I could see it. But once again, the Speaker of the House is nowhere in the military chain of command at all. They
Yeah.
have nothing to do with it. Short of voting on their budget, they have nothing to do with the National Guard or anything.
Well, this is part and parcel to what Donald Trump does. He fucks up and then he blames somebody else. Nobody buys it other than the stupid base, but He will always do that. Now, he brought the National Guard and the Marines into Los Angeles. How did that go? Have you heard anything about how he succeeded there or done anything? The protests are still happening. And
No,
Gavin Newsom is in his shit, so he's just kind of backed away from it because he's a fucking coward.
now I didn't hear what happened, but apparently yesterday, as you're hearing this, Monday, there were arguments in the court case, Gavin Newsom versus Donald Trump, regarding regarding use of the National Guard in LA. So that case
Really?
is still ongoing in the courts. Yeah, I read something about it, said the case was going on. I didn't read anything about what the arguments were, but just that more arguments were set forth yesterday. But I never heard anything else beyond that. But he's still fighting with Gavin Newsom over whether or not it's even for him to call in the guard. So you're right. He went for the low hanging fruit where there isn't a governor with him to contend with, and he can just do it. But he's gonna get embarrassed. It's gonna blow up in his face. And
Well,
somebody pointed out,
do you think there's going to be any pushback from the people of DC? I mean, these people aren't like LA people necessarily. I mean, the bottom line is he's talking about all the crime. There is no crime, but it is a predominantly black area. So it comes off looking pretty fucking racist.
well, I mean, that's Donald Trump. He is a racist through and through. He'll try to spin it and say he's not, but there's countless records of him doing racist bullshit his entire life. But there were already protests outside of D.C. or outside of the
Right.
Capitol today, outside of the White House, protesting what he was doing. And I guarantee you, a lot of those came from the D.C. metro area because how many people had a chance? We didn't know exactly what he was going to say. Yeah, we knew the press conference was coming, but how many people do you think actually hopped a plane and went to D.C. just to protest today, not knowing exactly what he was going to do, what he was going to say or do?
Oh, there's plenty of people that are going to be pissed off and push back. Now, he says he's going to scoop up all the homeless people. Let's be honest, most of those people will probably be citizens. Says, we'll give them a place to live. Oh, yeah, like what? Like a detention camp? You're going to make being homeless illegal when you and your buddies are the reason people are fucking homeless? It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't know where he wants to send them, but right before we got on this podcast, I saw a TikTok and somebody pointed out that him moving the homeless is similar to what happened in the beginnings of the Great Depression. People
Right.
couldn't live, they couldn't afford houses, and tent and shack cities started popping up all over the country that were called Hoovervilles after President Hoover because he let the economy go to shit. So if he's just going to move them outside of DC, out of the metro, and put them out on some land and say, okay, well, you can stay here. These tent cities, if he keeps this up, are going to start being known as Trumpvilles. And he's going to hate that.
Yeah. Well, I think with Hoover was in office, there were the 10 cities, but I think there was even a period of time where there were 10 cities right in front of the White House. And that really
I
pissed
believe
off
so.
Hoover.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
Oh,
cleared
yeah.
them
Because
out pretty fast.
he did absolutely nothing when the stock market fell. He was one of the ones. He would have probably bought into trickle down economics. He said, "Oh, the market will fix itself. The economy will right itself. We don't have to do anything. Just give it time." And he did nothing for 3 years but make it worse, including using tariffs, which is Donald Trump's favorite thing. The parallels are uncanny, but as I've said numerous times, if he fucks up everything as bad as it could be, he could lead to the Democrats having power for 20 years.
Well, let's talk about the tariffs briefly. Taco Donnie chickened out again. We know when he first put out the tariffs that he backed off because he's a pussy ass bitch. Gave him 90 days. Then he gave them another week, but he gave China till August 12th. Well, today when we're recording this is August 11th. So guess what he did today? Gave China another 90 days. And I'll be honest with you, the timing of him doing this in DC could be partially to cover up the fact because that news story wasn't as much reported as what's going on in DC because he's afraid of being called a chicken. Well, Donnie, I'm here to tell you, you're a chicken shit pussy ass bitch.
Yeah, I didn't think of that connection that the DC thing might be covering up the fact that he backed out. But beyond that, not only did he back out of putting the tariffs on, but didn't he say like 2 months ago that they had a deal with China? The deal was
Yeah,
done, just
yeah.
waiting for signatures, and now suddenly, oh, there's no deal. We need more time to negotiate. 3 more months. I thought all you had to do was sign the damn thing and it was done. Donald Trump is trying to twist and turn every which way with this shit. It's not working the way he wants. He can't get China to do what he wants. He can't get Congress to really do what he wants. He's not getting anybody to go along with him, and it's wrecking the economy. So he's trying to pull all these distractions. I'm going to take over DC. I'm going to do this. I'm meeting uh, with Putin in Russia. Yeah, he during that. Did you see that during his press conference
Yeah.
where he was talking about DC? He was talking about DC. He goes, "Oh, I'm meeting Putin in Russia on Friday." Then he goes back to talking about DC. Like literally, it was 3 sentences long. DC, Russia, DC. But he wasn't talking about what he meant was he's meeting with Putin in Alaska
Right.
on Friday. But he said Russia. So is it the dementia? Is it stress? Does he just not know what the hell is going on or where he's even going? And he just gets on a plane and he hopes they take him where he's supposed to go?
Well, I think it's a combination of stupid and dementia. The interesting thing about this meeting with Putin, this promises to be quite a disaster too, because I think Will was telling me or somebody was telling me the whole premise of this meeting was that Witkoff, Steve Witkoff, I think his name is, his special envoy to Russia, said that Vladimir Putin agreed to certain terms. And then Vladimir Putin said, nah, I didn't agree to that shit. So then it should have been canceled. But Witkoff admitted, yeah, I kind of lied because that's what he wanted to hear. And that's typical. Nobody tells Donald Trump the truth in his inner circle. So now he told us that he was going to end the war in Ukraine in 24 hours once he became president. Well, actually, once he was elected with just a phone call. We're now 7 months into his presidency, and he's no closer yet. And they were talking about this meeting with Vladimir Putin. This is what he said. He said, "Well, I think it'll be pretty good, but it could also go really bad." And he's just setting it up to make people ready for the worst because it's going to be the worst. He's going there on a premise of a lie. I don't know if he realizes it's a lie yet, but when he gets there, Vladimir Putin's going to fucking embarrass him because he's not going to give him what he wants. He's not bringing in Zelensky, which makes no sense. Zelensky said, if I'm not at the table, there's no fucking deal. So this is just a exercise in futility. Nothing's going to be accomplished here. We won't hear what the meeting's about, but once again, Donald Trump will come out. He'll get frustrated and he says, well, I'm just not dealing with it anymore because that's what he does.
Yeah, he could do that. I could see him very much coming out and saying, well, I talked to him. He's not backing off. So whatever. I'm done with this whole deal. They can figure it out themselves. They can fight for a decade for all I care. I could
Right.
see him doing that. I can also see him and Putin coming out, even though the whole premise of the meeting may be built on a lie, coming up to some terms, and he'll come out and say, oh, we got a deal, we got a peace deal, got a ceasefire. Putin's agreed to it. We're going to have a ceasefire. And Zelensky will look at the deal and say, fuck no. Because it's going to require Russia to keep all of the land that they have illegally acquired through this war, through this invasion that should never have happened. And Zelensky has already said any land loss to Russia is a non-starter. They won't sign that peace deal. But Donald Trump will come out and say, "See, I brokered a peace deal. I've got it. Give me the Nobel Peace Prize. I've got it. I've done it."
Well, the thing about it is the deal that Witkoff said they had was that Ukraine would give up the land that Russia has taken so far, and Russia would give up the land that Ukraine has taken over, which is fucking crazy. Neither one of them are going to agree to that. I mean, I don't even know why you'd present that to Vladimir Putin. He's going to laugh in your fucking face. And that's probably what's going to happen. The thing I'm interested in is when he goes there and talks to Putin, doesn't get what he wants. Is he going to get pissed off at Putin and start making threats again? I mean, we're already a month past his 10-day his 10-day threat of sanctions and tariffs and all that shit. He's such a pussy that that he makes these threats against Russia and never, ever follows up on them.
Yeah, I could see him backing the fuck out with that, going, I'm done with it. And then if Putin, depending on how Putin presents it, going ahead and making all kinds of threats again, but then would he actually follow through with it? Or would it be, well, I told him very strongly that, he's got 2 weeks to figure it out. If he don't get it done, we're going to do something. Then the deadline will come by. And if nobody pushes him on it, he just won't say anything
Well,
because that's how he is.
I think after all this time of making these threats and Putin not doing anything about it, but it doesn't stop there. Putin not only doesn't do anything about his threats, he purposely goes out to embarrass Donald Trump by do a mass bombing right after he talks to Donald Trump. He's basically laughing in Donald Trump's face. The only thing Donald Trump can do is, I'm the master negotiator. There's nothing I can do here. Fuck you guys. Go kill each other. I can see him saying that.
So could I. And then you have JD Vance Sunday morning on Fox News saying, well, we're done helping Ukraine. Well, depending on how bad Putin pisses off Donald Trump and how bad he embarrasses Donald Trump, I could see Donald Trump coming out of this meeting, partially throwing his hands up saying, well, we can't do anything, or saying, well, hey, you know what? I'll show it to Putin. We'll go to Congress and we'll get some more funding for Ukraine. And then
Yeah.
he'll just make JD Vance look like he doesn't know what he's doing. I could see any of those possibilities. The problem with Donald Trump is, and we've talked about it before, is that like a 3-year-old.
Yeah.
You don't know what he's going to do 1 minute to the next on any topic. There's very few topics that stay consistent with Donald Trump. He changes his mind. He listens to somebody else. It's not working quite the way he wants, so he's going to try something else, but he wants to come back to that later. You never know what he's going to do, and that is so dangerous.
Well, that's the thing when we're talking about the tariffs, he claims to have, even though he promised 90 deals in 90 days, he claims now to have 6 or 7 deals. Interesting thing is, first of all, China, there was no deal clearly. Otherwise, he wouldn't give them another 90 days. But the 6 deals he claims he has, there's nothing written down. Donald Trump always jumps the gun. He goes in, he gets some kind of agreement, and then he says, we got an agreement. The problem is nobody can negotiate with him because they can't trust him to follow through with what he promised. He always changes it. So when you hear something like, well, this country is going to invest $600 billion into the country. Well, it's not the government. It's a independent company. And they know they aren't locked into doing it because there's nothing in fucking writing. They just tell him what he wants to hear, just like his own fucking staff.
Exactly. And beyond that, even these deals, if they were real, which it sounds like they're not, I go back to the one with Japan. I've talked about it numerous times. He says, oh, well, we got a great deal with them. We're going to put tariffs of 15%, 15% on everything coming in from Japan. Great deal. We were at less than 2% before Donald Trump became president this time, which means everything is going to be 13% more expensive. But he says it's a great deal. It's not, because he doesn't understand how tariffs work. And for somebody who claims to be a successful businessman, how is it that he knows so little about the actual business world? Oh, I know. It's because his business was in moving money around. He'd buy a building, mortgage it, and then go to a different bank and say, it's worth even twice as much what I paid for it, and get a bigger mortgage. And then he was always just moving money around. He don't know shit about shit. All of his legitimate companies besides real estate have failed.
I think he understands what tariffs are. Somebody around him has to explain it to him, but it's the only thing he knows. He's a one-trick pony. He doesn't have any other substantial ideas or concepts or policies that where he's going to make this money. So he just keeps pounding on it. That's what Donald Trump does. He doubles down, triples down, quadruples down, even when he's wrong. And this tariff thing, he's not going to back off of it until everybody fucking quits on him. And that's a distinct possibility. I'm seeing, when we look at what's going on with the FBI, the military, I think you might start seeing people resigning in mass because they realize this is a doomed situation.
Maybe, but But I don't know necessarily if the military will resign. They may stay just to be the buffer zone to make sure things actually work the way they're intended, and he doesn't get to put in a bunch of yes men or yes people. But still, Donald Trump is going to cause all these people a very tough question. It's going to come to when they're going to have to decide, are we still loyal to Donald Trump or are we going to walk away? And
Yeah.
I keep saying with Congress, they have to come up to that point when it starts to affect their elections. And we're seeing some of the elected members of Congress starting to go, oh, fuck, I got to do something. Did you see that town hall in
Yeah.
California for that Republican Malfer?
Yeah.
No,
Something
that's
like
not
that.
right. So it's something close. But he shows up and the crowd's chanting, "You should be impeached. Tell him to fuck off." You know, and these are his constituents. They're the people that voted for him, and he's
Yeah.
getting treated like shit. And come to find out, it was the first time he'd been back to his district in 8 years. First
Wow.
town hall he had done in 8 years, that he gets utterly destroyed at this thing, and he didn't really have an answer for anything. He didn't
No, he
have an
didn't.
answer when he was pushed on anything.
Is he the one that stood up there and said, "You don't deserve free health care"? Is that the guy? Because somebody said
He
that.
might have said that because he also said when he was asked about NPR and PBS getting their funding cut, he went, "Well, you got a lot of other options you can view media in," and they just
Well,
booed the shit out of him.
I get a kick out of the people that think they won something with NPR and PBS. They think by pulling what funding they had out of there that these things are gone. They're not. They didn't really put a high percentage of money into those. They put a lot of money, but percentage of the money they collect themselves from donations and stuff, they're still going to survive. They're going to be there. And since Donald Trump's already done that, taking it away from them, they ain't going to be too fucking friendly.
And they have no incentive to be. But as I've talked about a couple different times, when it comes to funding NPR and PBS, one of the reasons he's against them, and he says, "Oh, they're just left leaning and they're so horrible." It's not that they're left leaning. They speak impartially for the most part. They're just
Right.
speaking the goddamn truth. And the truth makes Donald Trump look bad. And he can't take it.
No, he can't take it. The one thing I will say about, in one respect, I'm kind of happy Pete Hegseth is in front of the, or in charge of the Defense Department, because here's why. He's absolutely incompetent. Everybody in the Defense Department knows he's incompetent. He's incompetent, so he's weak. So a lot of these people will do just whatever they want to do because all he cares about is doing interviews and sitting in his makeup chair. He's too stupid. I mean, if you had some kind of evil genius in there that had some kind of sense of what was going on, it might be very dangerous. I don't think anybody looks at Pete Hegseth as a serious person in the Defense Department.
I don't think any of his picks outside of maybe Marco Rubio are actually halfway decent for the positions that they were in. I think the best person in his cabinet for any position is Rubio. And I'm going to include Jay Vance in there. I think Rubio's the best of the lot. And that's not saying much because Rubio isn't that great, just the best of the lot. They don't take Pete Hegseth seriously. They don't take any of them seriously. And you said, well, it'd be different if there was an evil genius in there. No, the evil genius wouldn't be there because they're smart enough to look at it and go, oh, fuck, this is going to bite me in the ass being connected to that dumb fuck. And they're staying as far away from there as possible.
You bring up Marco Rubio, and because he was a senator, he makes what seems like an appropriate choice for Secretary of State. I get that. But the problem with Marco Rubio, he isn't using his own mind. He's uh, he's complicit, or he's uh, a sycophant to Donald Trump, and you can see it when you see him in meetings. His head's down. He looks embarrassed. He looks weak. He looks tired and beaten. Um, Marco Rubio might have some tools to be a Secretary of State, but he's not allowed to use them. He's only allowed to do those things that he knows very well are fucking wrong and fucking stupid, and he continues to do it.
Yeah, you're right. I was just saying he's the most competent out of the people around Donald Trump. Not that
Yeah.
he's able to do the things he needs to do, but he's the best pick out of all of them that Donald Trump put forward. None of the rest of them, including JD Vance, are really qualified to do the job they're doing. Um, and that's saying something. And Donald Trump even came out and said in an interview he won't confirm that he's not going to run for another term. He still thinks he's going to make a run for it, and he'd be up by 28 points if he did,
Yeah.
which is complete bullshit. But he was talking about that, and they were trying to get him to nail down a successor, somebody to take his place, the next leader of the MAGA movement, the next head of the Republican Party. And he's like, well, you got Marco. He was building up Marco over his own vice president, JD Vance.
Well, for as much of a pussy as Marco Rubio is, he's a much better choice than JD Vance. And I think Donald Trump's looking at JD Vance as a threat. He should, because he's paranoid. They're going to come for him, and JD Vance is going to lead the charge. But this guy is an absolute idiot. I mean, he's incredibly stupid. When he was talking about the Epstein file thing, and he said, "Oh, this is all a Democratic thing. This is all the Democrats involved. It's a demo." What he was trying to do, and what Donald Trump would try to do in that case, he was trying to scare the Democrats. Oh no, maybe it is Democrats. Maybe we'll back off of him. But the problem is, it's not the Democrats pounding him, it's his own people pounding him. And if it's all Democrats, why not release it? People ask that question, and it just sounds very sketchy as hell. And even the dumbest Trump fucks are going, he might be hiding something. Yeah, you think?
Yeah, I've said it, and I've said it numerous times in my videos and on here that uh, they have been told for the longest time the most heinous and horrendous things about Democrats and left-leaning people. That they are performing abortions after birth, and they do all of these horrible things to children, and all of this. So Republicans and MAGA specifically are convinced when the Epstein files get released that it's going to be 100% Democrats, 100%. Not a single Republican to be found, because they're all virtuous, good, God-fearing people, and everybody who leans left is a devil worshiper or worse, according to them.
How does that make any sense? Because Epstein himself was a Republican. This Republican sucked
Doesn't
in all
have to
these
make
Democrats.
sense,
Yeah,
because
I
it
know.
doesn't. But they have been told for so long that Democrats are the evil ones, that they do all these bad things to kids, that they have convinced themselves that the only people who could possibly be in the Epstein files are Democrats, period. That there could
Right.
be no Republicans. And they think this is going to be the smoking gun to end the Democratic Party completely. It's going to, it'll be Republican rule in every state, elections the same way Reagan won for decades. That's their dream. And then when you come out and say, well, we can't release the list, we're not doing this, we're not doing that, they're going, what the fuck? We want this proof. And then you have JD Vance on the Sunday morning talk shows going, yeah, it's all Democrats. We don't know what they all did. They're just going, huh? Then release it. It just drives them. It fuels them to want it more. And they don't. JD Vance is too stupid to realize what he even said.
Oh, he doesn't get it. He doesn't, it's like Donald Trump deploying the National Guard in Washington, D.C., and then telling us 5 years before or 4 years before that he couldn't deploy the National Guard in D.C. on January 6th. It's just these people just say anything that comes into their head, and they don't think about anything but right now, immediate gratification, and they don't think about having to defend it down the road. They continually do this. I mean, they want to go after Letitia James, and they want to go after um, what's his name, Schiff, Adam Schiff, and they say we
Hmm?
got to go after him. We got to go after Barack Obama. First of all, they investigated Barack Obama twice, found nothing. They investigated Joe Biden for 2 years, found nothing. They didn't do shit to Hunter Biden except fuck him over a little bit. So now they want to talk to Letitia James. I think Donald Trump is trying to figure out a way with his power to not pay that $400 million, but he's going to have to pay it. That's a fucking state issue. That's not a federal issue.
Yeah, he's trying to find a way to get out of paying that. And because none of his arguments in court are holding up. So now he's looking for any other loophole to get around it, just like he was trying to put the taxpayers on the dime to pay E. Jean Carroll.
Right.
And the court said no. But he was trying, I don't remember, I didn't read all of the details on it, but he was trying to do something to say, well, the taxpayers should pay for it because I was president at the time.
No.
No, that's not how that works. Just because you're president, it doesn't absolve you from all responsibility. But Donald Trump thinks that the bank account of the federal government is his money.
Yeah, he absolutely
Just look,
does. And he'll steal it at every chance.
well, just look what he said when he was wandering around the roof like a lost dementia patient. He said, I was just looking for ways to spend my money. He said it.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think he was doing up there? What was his excuse? I mean, it's silly no matter
Hmm.
what he went up there for, but it did seem a little disconcerting, questioning whether he's of a sound mind.
He was, I don't know if he was looking at getting a better view of like the overall layout of his new patio. Um, because you could get a bird's eye view or a better view than you could from down below. Uh, some people thought he was looking out and checking out the way because they want to put that big ballroom addition on the side of the White House that we
Yeah.
don't need. But he wants to do that because he wants to make it more like Mar-a-Lago. Um, and that he was looking at that. And then with a couple of his gestures, looked like he was doing like a dome kind of
Yeah.
gesture. Some people thought he was trying to figure out if they could put missile silos up there.
Yeah. He talked about that. He talked about putting a nuclear reactor on the moon, which
Yep.
won't work, and missile silos on top of the White House. Now, I kind of hope he does that because going back to what we said before, he always fucks up. So if he was to trigger those, they'd probably go into the White House and not where they're supposed to go. That would be hilarious. I'd like to see Donald Trump living in a house with nothing but nuclear missiles sitting above him. A little dangerous, but I'm willing to risk it for him.
Yeah, I don't know. I really don't want to see him do that because everything he does though, the next president's going to have to fix, and we're going to have to spend
Yeah.
money to reverse it. You know, and like we're not like if he puts in the ballroom, obviously we're not going to take the addition down. But is it even going to be used? Probably not very often. This patio, is it going to stay? Is the concrete going to get torn up? And are they going to repave or resod it and put the rose garden back? Maybe. Who knows? It depends on who gets elected. But Jesus Christ, this is all at the taxpayer expense. I don't want to see any more bullshit done. He says we have no money. We got to cut all these government programs. So we do, and it's going to fuck over the everyday people. But then we have somehow a budget for all of his little pet projects at the White House. Makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, as far as the missile silos, I think Will pointed out, and he makes a good point. It can't be done. Those things are heavy. They're not going to be held up by a fucking roof on the White House. That's just silly. But and the ballroom, I don't think that actually gets built. It's just, he just says anything to try to distract attention. Sometimes he's trying to incite some fear, and I think anytime we get fearful, that's when he wins. That's why this whole Washington D.C. thing, it's a good amount of bullshit. Like you said, he can only do it for a certain period of time, and I don't think Congress is going to back him on that thing. But even if he does it, what you have to understand is DC is a federal city. It's pretty much owned by the federal government. So they can do a lot of things that they want to do. And if they want to do stupid shit, I just think you're going to get a pushback from the people. And because he's going to fuck it up, this is going to end up like a ridiculous failure for him. I kind of hope he does it because I want him to fail.
Oh yeah, he's definitely going to fail no matter what he does here. And DC is it's a combination. It's not 100% federal, but it's not 100% its own city either.
Right.
They it's ever since its founding, it's been both. They're like all of the federal parks, and that's the other thing. Some of what Donald Trump was talking about was damage to stuff in the federal land that isn't getting fixed and dealt with. Well, that's your
Right.
responsibility as part of the federal government to pay for. That's out of your ass. That doesn't fall to the city. But typical Donald Trump wants to pass the bill onto somebody else.
Yeah. What do you think about the tariffs? Now, some of them have been enacted, and we know that it takes a little time to take effect. We had people coming on saying, "Well, the tariffs didn't look too bad." Well, no, because he issued them and then he pulled back, and then he issued them, then he pulled back. So we haven't felt the true effects of the tariffs. But now we have some legitimate tariffs in Brazil, 50%. Hope you don't like coffee because that's going to affect that. Uh, We've got Canada. That's not going to be helpful with cars and some other things. Um, the pain is going to be felt here sometime soon, and the timing is really bad because we're going into the fall and then Christmas, and people aren't going to be able to afford a lot of shit. And he's going to get the heat for it. He can't blame this on Biden. It's all Donald Trump. He may try to blame Biden, but it's not. Nobody's going to buy it because it's Donald Trump fucking things up.
Yeah, the tariffs. We don't even know 100% if the tariffs are legal.
No.
They're still going through the courts, and uh, Donald Trump, of course, is arguing that well, if these tariffs or get canceled, and the courts say I can't do this, it's going to cause a 1930s Great Depression style event. No, motherfucker, the tariffs you're putting on could cause that event. When you're talking about 245% tariffs on China, Jesus Christ, what do you expect? All of your stuff's going to cost 240% more. So if you have $100 item and you put a 240% tariff, 245% tariff on it, that's now $345 the minute it hits the port. How in the hell is that going to work? These tariffs, he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. He's putting them on, putting them off. He's fucking around with the economy. He's threatening tariffs now on pharmaceuticals, but saying he's going to lower pharmaceutical prices. That's why I say he doesn't understand how they work. Because when he's throwing them on to make pharmaceuticals cheaper, that ain't going to work. That's going to make them more expensive. But like we said, he's a one-trick pony. And the only thing he can think to do to make people like his tariff idea is to give him a rebate check. And well, we're going to bribe you to make you like him.
I don't know if you'll accomplish that or not, but it's real easy to expose that. We're talking about $2,500 to $4,000 more in taxes by each of us, and then he wants to send you $600 back. $600 of your own money that you shouldn't have had to spend in the first place. I don't know if Trump will get it, but I think the public at large will figure that shit out.
Yeah, definitely. And the more we talk about it, the more people are getting it, and as they're feeling it in their own pocketbooks, they are gonna start to wake up. The people who are in the middle now, the Trump fucks, they probably won't wake up from it, except for maybe the Epstein files. That might be the only way that brings them away from Donald Trump, but they're never going to stop being Republican unless you get a FDR style Democrat and I've talked about it before. You run on a New Deal again, and you get these programs rolling, and it actually helps people, and they feel the effects of good legislation and good governance in their pocketbook.
Right.
Then they may start to change their minds because they only worry about what they see around them.
Yeah. Yeah. He's destined for failure, like he's been a failure in everything he's ever done. He's never been successful in anything except hoodwinking, gaslighting, and cheating people. That's the only thing he's ever been good at. And that can only last so long in this situation because people are going to feel the pain and they're going to look for somebody to blame. And unfortunately for Donald Trump, he's the only one there to blame. He keeps coming up with these ideas. He pulls shit out of his ass and they don't work, and then he tries to blame somebody else. This isn't new for Donald Trump. He's been doing this for fucking decades. And now the people that support him, as far as I'm concerned, if you support Donald Trump, you support pedophilia. That's that's what I think we should label him as. I mean, otherwise, get out the Jeffrey Epstein files. I'm convinced when things are continue to get bad, there's enough people in the Trump organization that are leaking shit. I have a feeling there's going to be something from the files leaked at some point that is just going to be devastating for Donald Trump and maybe some other fucks too.
Oh yeah, I think you might be onto something with the files being leaked. I mean, this is the one thing Donald Trump can't get away from, and every time he thinks he's twisted away from it, something else comes up and he gets brought right back in. Um, I didn't see what part of the Epstein thing. I think it's about releasing grand jury testimony, but I could be wrong. That his old pal, Judge Tanya Chutkin, is having one of the cases. Well, that's not going to bode well for Donald Trump. There's a good chance, however that works out, it's going to blow up in his face because she follows the law. She's not um, an alien canon. She's not a bought and paid for judge. Donald Trump does not want this list released, and every time he tries to get away from it, something else pops up. Keeps bringing it up, keeps bringing it up, and ultimately, yeah, you're probably right. Somebody's going to leak something out of there, or a freedom of information request, or something's going to go through, and the list and the files are going to be out in some form that it's not controlled by Donald Trump, and he is going to lose his mind. It's going to be so bad for him.
It's going to be bad, and there's going to be no way out, and God knows what he will do. Some people are under the impression, and I just think it's a distinct possibility, Donald Trump has worn out his welcome. He is a liability and no longer an asset. He got them what they wanted. And we could very well be seeing wealthy people going, I'm tired of this shit. I'm tired of him fucking with the stock market. Let's take him down so even the base hates him, and then we can get rid of him.
That could happen. Politically, I know there's a lot of people that listen to the podcast that think I'm nuts for saying this because they say, well, there's no such thing as a sane Republican anymore. But I think sometime around the midterms next year, you are going to see a revolt by Republicans. It may be after the midterms, but
Yeah.
Donald Trump's political capital is gone after the midterms because there's no more elections that he can be a part of. He can't run for a third term. And if he costs him the House and or the Senate, they are going to want to dump that guy so fast
Yeah.
that in order to salvage anything for 2028. And they're already looking at 28 going, well, what do we do? And he won't put his thumb on the scale and endorse a candidate because he keeps playing this, well, I'm probably not going to run, but I might run. And then he sells Trump 28 merch and all this bullshit. He's not allowing them to move on to 2028. And they may have no choice but to dump his ass through 25th Amendment or an impeachment. I guarantee you, if they do an impeachment, they've got something in their back pocket they're waiting on.
Yeah, no question. The thing about it is that I still really question whether Donald Trump has the physical or mental health to continue up through the 2026 election. Um, I think something happens before then. I could be wrong. I've been wrong before, but he does not look good, and the pressure is going to continue to mount. We've got this Jeffrey Epstein thing. Something that people think I'm crazy about is that I hope they don't release the Jeffrey Epstein files because it gets worse and worse and worse every day. Now, the Jeffrey Epstein files may take him down completely unless he's been successful in sanitizing it to a certain extent, or at least giving him a reasonable deniability. That's what he was trying to get with the grand jury transcripts because there's no new information in there. He thought he could placate these people by giving the grand jury testimony that wasn't going to say much about him or anything. But that's not going to work. I think Ghislaine Maxwell, whatever he plans for her or doesn't plan for her, I don't think that's going to help either because prior to the election, all the Trumplafucks that wanted to see the Epstein files, they weren't even thinking Donald Trump was in the fucking in the evidence. That wasn't what they wanted. They're not trying to expose Donald Trump. They want the evidence of all the Democrats or whoever else is involved. But Donald Trump is so arrogant. The only thing with the Jeffrey Epstein files that he's focused on, clearing himself. And that isn't the bottom line for Republicans or Democrats who want to see the evidence. They don't, well, I won't say they won't care about Donald Trump being involved, but that's not the big issue. If Donald Trump says, I'm clear from this, they still want to see the files.
Right. They like I said earlier, they are convinced it's nothing but 100% Democrats in that evidence. And the fact that it's not being released is just driving them to want it even more. And Donald Trump doesn't understand this. He doesn't get why they are pushing so hard to have the Epstein files released. Like you said, all he cares about is getting his name clear because he knows how bad being connected to Epstein is, to the point where he won't even admit that he knew the guy. We've talked about it before. Like with this birthday card. Sure, the birthday card was in bad taste. All it proves is Donald Trump knew him well enough to send him a birthday card.
And that
And
threw
Donald
him
Trump
into
could say,
a
yeah,
tizzy.
yeah. But all Donald Trump had to say was, yeah, he was in the finance world, or so I thought. He was a big name in the finance area. I sent him a birthday card. Big deal. But Donald Trump isn't smart enough. I don't think he was ever smart enough to get away from it by saying something like that. That's before you factor in all of the mental health and the age decline factors and everything else. No, Donald Trump doesn't survive this, I don't think. I think the stress of the Epstein files being called for day in, day out, and him not being able to spin it and him constantly losing at every turn, being embarrassed all the time, his ego taking hits, not being respected by Vladimir Putin, all of it's going to get to him. And he may end up having some kind of major health issue between now and the end of his term where he is removed from the equation one way or another, whether he passes away, whether it gets back up that he is not capable and they have the 25th Amendment him. I don't think he would take himself out and say, okay, I can't do this, I resign.
Oh, he won't do that.
But if he gets to the point where he's in a non-responsive state because of a heart attack, a stroke, something like that, it's entirely possible. JD Vance has no choice but to say he can't do it. I've got to take over. Period.
Like Chris Farley would have said back when he was doing those Chicago Bears things. I've got a Big Mac lodged in this region. I could see that happening to Donald Trump. This fucker is just he's not looking good. He's not sounding good. And there's got to come a point you would think that the Republicans would say, Jesus Christ, this is crazy. Although I would have thought they've done that before now. They've shown incredible cowardice and not standing up to Donald Trump. I don't know what they're afraid of him about, because at this point, if I'm thinking about running for the presidency, I don't want Donald Trump's endorsement, because between now and 2028, the public perception, even by his base, is going to be dramatically different. And I've always contended when this is done, he's going to be a fucking pariah. He's going to be a joke in terms of history. And to be associated with him is not going to be a plus.
Yeah, I agree. I think by the time it's all said and done, it's going to be a situation where a couple generations from now, the big Trump supporters that are my age and younger that bought all the Trump gear and all of this, that when they're finally gone, you're going to be going through their closets and finding Trump hats and Trump merch hidden up in the closet in the attic and buried away. And you're going to go, oh my God, I can't believe grandma was a Trump supporter or grandpa was a Trump humper. His name is going to go down in history as the worst president in our history at all. I mean, and he'll be on the list twice, apparently, maybe, depending on how you want to look at it, because he was elected twice. And, he's the worst president since himself, and it's only going to go down. Now, if you ask him, he should be top three, but, that's just because he's that big of a narcissist that he believes he is, a top tier president. He's done this amazing job for the country, but nobody can ever point out anything good he's actually done for the country or anybody besides himself.
Oh, absolutely true. And when Grandpa dies and you go in his closet, you're going to find uh, Ku Klux Klan hood. You're going to find a Confederate flag and a Trump Vance 2024 bumper sticker, because that's essentially who these people are. And you would think, it sounds like there are a bunch of people on the Republican side that are going, geez, I'm sorry I've done this. I finally see it. I don't have a lot of respect for those people because this is something you could have gleaned 5 years ago, but you chose not to. And now it's starting to hurt them. And now they don't know what to do. And they're looking, oddly enough, these were the people that said, fuck your feelings, snowflakes. And now they want empathy from us. I'm sorry, I got no empathy from them. I hope you suffer mightily. I hope your whole family suffers mightily. I don't like seeing innocent people or kids suffer, but you did this to you, not me.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to them, to anybody who didn't vote for this to suffer. But
No.
you're right. They're going to feel the brunt of it. What's going to happen to the older people that voted for Donald Trump, that when they need to go to that nursing home and suddenly Medicaid's not paying for long-term nursing care anymore for their area because of all the funding cuts, and they can't get into the nursing home, but they don't have any children. They've alienated their kids because of Donald Trump, and they got nowhere to go. Where are they supposed to live? Who are they supposed to live with? They don't understand the ramifications of what they've done until it comes back and bites them in the ass, and then they want uh, us to forgive them because like they didn't know any better. The bulk of Americans have access to the entirety and the sum of all of human knowledge at your fingertips with smartphones and computers. How do you not know any of this stuff other than you choose to either ignore anything that you didn't like or you only listen to certain sources? And when they confirm the things you were feeling, you believe them at 100%.
No, I'm convinced that a lot of it is laziness and it kind of stems from the decades and decades of apathy. People are becoming awake and paying attention to politics now because it is affecting them. I have said this before. If you voted for Donald Trump in 2016, you're stupid. You should have known better. If you voted for him in 2020, you're irredeemable. And if you voted for him in 2024 and still support him now, you are ignorant, evil, and irredeemable. There's just no hope for you. You can come back and say, geez, I didn't know. Well, if you didn't know, you're too stupid to hang out with me, too stupid to have a conversation with me. Um, and and even if I did forgive you, I can't trust you. Because when the next clown comes around, you're going to jump on that fucking bandwagon too.
Yeah, exactly. And, I can proudly say I've never voted for Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And I was smart enough to see that it was going to be a shit show if he got elected. But I never, ever expected him to actually get elected. I didn't think there was any way he could have beat Hillary Clinton at all. And then we get surprised and upset in 2016. Okay, come back around. Joe Biden wins in 2020 by an overwhelming majority. Sounds great. I thought, okay, guaranteed. Then they said, oh, we're running Donald Trump again. I'm like, fuck, easy victory. We're going to win again.
Yeah.
How in the fuck did he get elected for a second term in his third election? It doesn't make any damn sense. And you're right. Anybody who voted for him in 2020 or 2024 who uh, didn't learn from his first term, Jesus Christ, what the hell's wrong with you?
Yeah. Some people will come to my page, usually Trump humpers or something like that, and they'll say, you can never be wrong. You never admit you're wrong. Well, I'm not only going to admit I was wrong, I'm going to admit you were wrong because we agreed on this. When he was elected, we said he can only do so much because there's going to be guardrails. The Republicans will push back. They won't allow him to do all these things. The Democrats will do something. Never in my wildest dreams did I think it would get this far. I really didn't. I thought the government kind of self corrects itself and would put up some guardrails. But what we find out today with what's going on in DC and Los Angeles and the tariffs and all this stuff, they ain't no guardrails. Nobody's tried to stop him. And for that reason, you and I were wrong about that. And I'll readily admit it. I every time I'm wrong about like when Kamala lost to Trump, it's always the same reason. I gave too much credit to the electorate of this country, to Republicans, and a lot of Democrats. I gave them too much credit. And I'm not going to make that mistake again because it's a disappointment when you see somebody voting for Donald Trump when you know all you know, hear and see what you've seen, and you still vote for him. It's not a good commentary on the people of this country.
Yeah, you're right. We were both kind of wrong. We thought there'd be guardrails. However, one of the guardrails we both talked about has held, and that being the courts. For the
Yeah.
most part, the courts have held and keep saying, no, Donnie, you can't do this. Now, the Supreme Court does come in and fuck things up a little bit, but, you know, we're relying on the courts at this point because nothing else is working. And I think Republicans are going to put those guardrails back, like we talked about, when it gets close to the 2027 midterms.
Yeah.
When it gets closer to that election and they're starting to look at their reelection chances, the more times they get embarrassed at town halls and all of this, they're going to go, oh, fuck, I got to get elected. I still think that's going to happen. It may not be enough to keep them elected, but that is when they put the brakes on and they start pushing back. But it's not until it affects them personally and it affects their political power that they push back. Now, I don't think they expected it to be this fast of a start. I surely didn't expect him to do all of this bullshit in his first 7 months on the job. It feels like he's been president for 4 years because of how much bullshit's going on every single fucking day.
Well, like you say about 2016, you didn't think he'd get elected. I don't think the Republicans thought he would get elected. I didn't think they wanted him elected because they knew he was a buffoon. But then when he gets elected, they hop on that fucking train and they ride it. And then after he loses in 2020, they don't really have much else to go at him. And it seems like Donald Trump is still pulling some popularity from the dumb fucks. So they jump on that thing again. And the thing about it is they didn't have anything else, so they wanted to ride this to another win. Now, in terms of the guardrails, one of the things the Republicans never think about is that every guardrail they run over, if a Democrat gets in, they get to do it too. I mean, I always thought it was funny. Donald Trump wants to investigate Barack Obama. Why? He's got immunity. They can't do shit to him. But they want to think that their rules are for them and different rules for everybody else. Unfortunately, that's not the way it works.
Well, they want those different rules so that way they can say, well, see, look over here. It's just the investigating Barack Obama has to do with a couple of things. One, Barack Obama is higher up on the list of presidents than Donald Trump will ever be. He was widely popular, got a lot done. He's going to be a lot higher on that list. Joe Biden higher on that list, and Donald Trump's at the fucking bottom. So it's about embarrassing and tarnishing Obama's legacy. That's part of it. The other
Yeah.
part is this is a distraction from A, the stupid and illegal shit that Donald Trump is doing, and B, the Epstein files. Because if he can get his base on board and be rabid about going after Obama, because that was how he rose to power. He started getting politically noticed with birtherism during Obama's,
Yeah.
I think it was during his second term.
Right.
He's from Kenya. He's from Kenya. It, Donald Trump started pushing that and getting major political recognition for being a racist dumbfuck. And I don't know if establishment Republicans wanted him to lose. I think they've kind of figured if 2016 they'd deal with him if he won, and if he lost, he'd get him and their brand of MAGA Republicans out of the way and they could go back to a more establishment candidate like a Jeb Bush.
Yeah.
And I really thought at one point Jeb Bush was probably going to be the candidate to go up against Hillary Clinton. And I was surprised that he dropped out that early.
Yeah. Well, he's kind of a weak candidate, and he wasn't able to fight against Donald Trump. The problem is nobody knows how to deal with Donald Trump. Donald Trump, when he was going up against the Republicans, everybody's trying to play mainstream politics, and Donald Trump is being a back alley fucking bully. And if you're going up against a back alley bully, you can't stand there and try to fight uh, with rules. You just can't do it. And I'm kind of glad to see um, Gavin Newsom. I don't know if Gavin Newsom would be the best possible president, certainly better than Donald Trump by a long shot, but I do appreciate Gavin Newsom having that dog in him where he's fighting back. I don't know if you saw, he put something on, I don't know what he put it on, X or Instagram. He wrote in all capital letters, kind of teasing Don, and he said, look, if you guys do this, we're definitely doing it in California. And we're bigger than 21 fucking states in this country. We will um, blow you out of the water, and whatever you do in Texas and or Florida won't do you any good because we will just cancel it out. At least he's doing what you need to do to fight against a clown like Donald Trump. You need to slap them in the snout, slap the taste out of their mouth, because just doing the right thing and negotiating and talking about policy, it doesn't work. It may be wrong. It may be distasteful to a bunch of people. That's what we got to fucking do.
Yeah, you got to push back. I'm not sure how I feel about a Gavin Newsom presidency. I don't think he'd be a good candidate. I don't think he could necessarily win. Um, just because he's established. There's a lot of negative press out there about him already. And he's done some dumb things as governor. He
Yeah.
went on the right wing podcast. It's just he'd be a little riskier, but at the same point, you're right. He's fighting back. He's pushing back, and this whole mid decade districting is all bullshit. If Democrats really wanted to redraw the map, they could end up taking every seat in California, I think every seat in New York, every seat in New Jersey, and maybe even every seat in Minnesota if they
Yeah.
really wanted to.
Yeah.
Um, and what can you do? Now, and even Illinois could redistrict even worse than it already is.
Right.
And it is partially gerrymandered, but part of Illinois that people seem to forget is that like 90% of the state's population live in Chicago. They're
Yeah.
all in that one city. There's a whole swath of that state where there's not that many people compared to the rest of it. So, you got that problem. And then it if Democrat district Texas does, Republicans will never have control in the House again. And it could backfire in Texas and Florida and these other red states where they lose seats. They could lose some of these newly gerrymandered seats to Democrats in the process.
Well, when you look at Texas and Florida and how badly it's going in both of those states, it wouldn't be surprising to have some Republicans tired of this bullshit and either not vote or vote for Democrats. So it could blow up in their face. They're trying to game this situation any way they can. You mentioned Illinois. J.B. Pritzker might be a logical choice to run for president. He's smart, he's rich, but he seems like a down to earth, normal guy. He's a fighter too. He ain't taking any shit from Donald Trump. He's not afraid of Donald Trump. And I think that's the big difference. People go into a situation with Donald Trump and there's a certain amount of fear because he's a bully. Well, he's not a bigger bully than Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom can handle him. You need somebody who's not fearful of Donald Trump or any of the MAGA fucks. And you need somebody to push back. That's part and parcel to dealing with any bully. And if you're going to be Chuck Schumer and go, well, let's take the high, that's not going to work. Chuck Schumer needs to fucking go. Um, and you know what I find funny about Texas is one of the seats they want to get rid of if they do the gerrymandering is Jasmine Crockett's seat. They may not want to do that because then Jasmine Crockett will certainly run for the Senate and probably can beat uh, uh, Ken Paxton or Cornyn at this
Yeah.
point. At least that's
Yeah.
what
Oh,
Jay says.
I think so. I think Jasmine Crockett could easily beat Paxton if he gets the nomination. Paxton, I don't think, is nearly as liked as um, people think he is. The only reason he wins is because of straight ticket vote. I'm pretty sure Texas has straight where
Yeah,
you can
I
just
think
go
so.
in at the top of the ticket. There's two boxes, Democrat, Republican, and maybe there's a few more for some of the other parties. You circle that one in. Everybody who has that letter next to their name, they get voted for it. And I don't. Iowa got rid of it. Iowa got rid of straight
Yeah.
ticket voting. And I think it should be done away with nationwide. You should have to sit there and at least look at every race. Does it mean that some of the Republicans and the Trump-fucks are going to vote any differently than they normally would? No. Sometimes when you have to look at a name, it'll make you stop and think. Now, with this redistricting thing, one of the reasons, I say they could it could blow up in their face, they could end up losing seats. Well, look at what happened in those two special elections earlier this year for seats that were empty in Florida.
Right.
They were like plus 65 or whatever, 65 or 70% for Donald Trump. And they're like, oh yeah, well, they're going to be easy wins. And they were barely over 50, between 50 and 55%. Both
Right.
seats were hard fought wins because they didn't have name recognition. You start fucking with the map, and people don't know the name of their own representative anymore. Well, there are going to be issues, and you may not get that person, you may not end up keeping those seats.
What do you, I mean, with regards to this gerrymandering and the people from Texas, the Democrats that left the state, I saw somebody on Friday, somebody, maybe it was the Speaker of the House in Texas, they were saying, well, we can't stop paying you, but we can make it so that you have to come pick up your checks. We're going to take money out of your budgets for your district, and we're going to do all this stuff. We we're going to come get you and arrest you. We're going to um, vacate your seats. All of it is a bunch of bullshit. And I don't think those people they said, you better be back here Monday. Well, Monday came and they didn't show up. I think these people are in it for the long haul and they will probably have benefactors funding the situation because they want to see them continue. They want to break Texas and they will ultimately break Texas. They can make threats, but when the threats don't come through, then what?
Yeah, exactly. And if they do break Texas, and you have Texas not being able to gerrymander, and if I'm right, they uh don't actually pick up nearly as many seats, or potentially if this flips Texas, where at the state level they start going and going, well, what the fuck? We need more. We don't want these Republicans, and they're going to try to continue this gerrymander. So fuck it. We're going to oust them all and put Democrats in. If Texas flips blue at all,
Yeah,
I
it's
don't think it
over.
flips red. I don't think it goes back. I don't think it goes
Probably
back
not.
for a generation. And if Republicans lose Texas, they're done nationwide for a generation or more. They would never win another presidential election.
Texas does have a history of some Democratic background. Ann Richards, there was Lyndon Baines Johnson. You know,
Mm-hmm.
uh, it's distinctly possible. I'm just trying to look at how many House of Representative members there are in Texas. I presume right now there's
38.
more. 38, um, 38
And
Democrats or
13 are
Republicans.
Democrats. 38 total Democrats.
Okay. The question I have is why is Donald Trump, if they've got that big a disparity in Texas, Why are they doing this? It seems to me they're a little nervous. They're starting to read the room a little bit. They've got a pretty good lead as far as numbers of Texans in there, but they're getting nervous about this. That's why they're doing this. Donald Trump knows. The funny thing is, if they gerrymander Texas and Florida, or Texas, I don't know about Florida, Texas, Missouri, some of these other places, they say they can get like 12 or 13 votes extra than what they have now. But everything I'm hearing about this is Democrats probably win the House by 30 or 40 seats. So it may not make a fucking difference.
Well, yeah, but Donald Trump is terrified of losing the House in his next term for a multiple or in the next mid for multiple reasons. One, he doesn't want to be embarrassed again.
Oh,
Okay.
and he will be.
Because he was embarrassed, I guarantee you, during his first term when he lost the House. Because he said, well, Donald Trump and his policies lost him the House of Representatives. And Donald Trump doesn't want to be seen as a loser. Beyond that, he and other Republicans have come out and said if Democrats take the House, Donald Trump would be impeached again.
No
That it's going to
question.
happen. They are 100% convinced that he would be impeached yet again. Well, if he gets impeached again, how does he survive? He doesn't survive it, I don't think, even with Republicans having control of the Senate, because his political capital is gone. As long as he's brought up on good charges, I know that Republicans save him in another impeachment.
But he's got a laundry list of fucking problems and high crimes and misdemeanors. I mean, he's got a laundry list of them to do that. But I think also, in addition to that, one of the things Donald Trump is a little concerned about, if at least the Democrats get the House, nothing gets done, nothing he wants gets done. And for 2 years, there's going to be nothing but investigations and hearings. Everything he's ever fucked up or done criminally or corrupt is going to be exposed on national television in hearings in the House of Representatives. He is going to have a hellacious 2 years of just listening to how big a piece of shit he is.
Oh, yeah, he doesn't want to listen to any of that at all, not in the least. He doesn't want to hear that he fucked this up, he fucked that up, none of it. But he's gonna hear all of it. And he's dreading that because he doesn't want to be embarrassed. His ego can't take it. If you listen to Donald Trump, he's the best at everything. He's the best president ever. And having to be confronted with how he fucks up on a daily basis is going to drive him insane. Well, more insane than he already is. I
Yeah,
mean, if the dementia doesn't get him first. But
right.
the whole thing, he doesn't want to be impeached again. He doesn't want the investigations again. So he's thinking, well, we only have the House by 3 seats right now. Assuming we win all the seats and things stay the same, I need like 4 or 5 more seats. So that way it's not so close if I want to get more things passed through the House. It's too close. They're always talking about, well, they don't have enough votes. They don't have votes to pass this. He's looking at it from he needs it to get anything else done. But I also don't know what else he wants to get done because what else is left on his agenda?
Well, I think the important thing Donald Trump doesn't understand, and maybe some people in the public don't understand, Donald Trump is doing executive order after executive order after executive order. None of that is law. When the next president comes in, he could spend or she could spend the next month canceling every executive order that Donald Trump has ever done. In order to make it powerful and strong and have staying power, you got to put it through Congress. And he has done none of that. None of it. And he's not going to. He's too busy doing all this bullshit stuff to get anything done in Congress.
Yeah, anything permanent would have to go through Congress. Now, that doesn't mean every president goes through and undoes executive orders from previous administrations, because there were executive orders Donald Trump has now undone that were like 40 years old, 50 years old. If they're
Yeah.
good policy, presidents leave them in place. Thing is, with Donald Trump, he hasn't had any good policy executive orders.
No.
So they're going to go through and do just what you said. They're going to be passing all kinds of things, undo all of his executive orders. His legacy is going to be undone. And Donald Trump should be hoping to pass through any of this bullshit through Congress. The problem is Congress doesn't want to put their names to it, not really, because they know they got to run on it. And as we were talking about earlier, these town halls, they get embarrassed every time they show up because this shit's coming back and blowing up in their own people's faces.
Yeah. You would think the way it's gone for them with town halls and the letters and calls they're no doubt getting, that they would back off this situation. What do you think it really is? Why they continue to kowtow to Donald Trump? Can it still be fucking primaries? I find that hard to believe at this point.
I don't think it's so much about being primaried. I think it's political capital. I think that they're still convinced that without Donald Trump on their ticket, they can't win. Like that they are afraid of that 30% of hardcore Trump voter that won't vote if Donald Trump's not in the mix. That if they
Right.
don't show up and vote when they're up for election, that suddenly they may lose their district. They may lose their or whatever to a Democrat. Not so much primary itself, but about losing the general election without being associated with Donald Trump. They're worried that 30% of Republicans that would only vote because of Donald Trump will stay home. And that's why I say after they start losing their elections, they may come back after that, after the midterms and go, well, he just cost us 50 House seats and the Senate. Fuck this guy and vote
Yeah.
to impeach him on a list of charges to give the next batch of Republicans a chance to even have a fighting chance so they're not out of power for 20 years.
I think there's another part to this too. I've made this analogy before. With the Republicans, it's kind of like having that crazy ex, whether it be a boyfriend or girlfriend. They know a lot about you, they know everything about you. And the bitch is crazy or the guy is
Mm-hmm.
crazy, and you want to break up with him, but he's going to lose his shit and go off half cocked and expose a lot of stuff that you don't want people knowing. So while they want to break up with him, they can't break up with him, but they want to walk very softly. They're caught. And I think a lot of Republicans are feeling like that now, that they're stuck. They don't want to do this shit anymore, but they're too afraid of what might happen if this fucking nutcase goes off.
Yeah, that could be part of it because Donald Trump will burn the Republican Party down before he admits his own guilt. Before
Oh, yeah.
he won't go quietly into the night. He's going to have to be forcibly removed through impeachment or the 25th Amendment or something. Even if things go completely bad, that you cannot get him to agree and go, oh, well, yeah, I guess I fucked up. I better resign. He wouldn't pull a Nixon. Um, and the minute you guys start or they start talking about him go away, he's going to blow up at him. He's going to, like you said, he's going to go off half cocked. And they don't want to deal with the ramifications of that. They don't want to deal with the outcome. And they're like, fuck, what do we do?
Well, it's like an impending disaster that they can't avoid, and they're just trying to prolong it for a little while. They're afraid of dealing with whatever they're going to have to deal with, so they're just trying to keep everything status quo. That's what Donald Trump does a lot too. He likes to delay, divert, distract, and do all that stuff. And I think these people are so terrified for whatever reason, they're just trying to keep him calm. I mean, a perfect example is the people that work with him. They don't seem to tell him the truth about a lot of things because it's stuff he doesn't want to hear. He believes that he has a 70% uh, popularity in this country. Well, he doesn't on no poll, but he hears somebody tell him what he wants to hear and he goes, that must be the truth because I'm a great guy. And this is going to blow up in their faces eventually because more and more is going to be slapping him in the face. And he's going to realize that these people aren't being upfront with him. They aren't being truthful with him. And that'll be part of the reason why he fucking implodes.
Yeah, you're right. He only hears what they want, what he wants them to tell him, and then when they tell him, you know, he's all happy because it must be true. He only watches Fox and he only talks to certain networks and he disparages all the rest because they say the things he wants to hear. Donald Trump cannot handle criticism. He cannot handle any of it, or the ketchup packets are flying at the wall. And
Yeah.
they don't want to deal with this toddler who's going to throw a temper tantrum at every bit of bad news. I mean, it's like trying to play a board game with like a 3 or 4 year old, a simple game or whatever, but they're not winning. And suddenly the board gets flipped over and they storm off crying. Trump show. And they don't want to deal with him. So they
Right.
feed him the information he wants to hear. Oh, you're loved, Donnie. There's 70% approval. Everyone thinks this is great. And then when they want him to do something, it's, well, everybody's going to love you even more if you do this. Or if they don't want him to do something, well, you're going to look bad. You're going to look weak. You're going to look like a loser if you do that. You have to know how to talk to him in order to get him to do anything. And he doesn't read into anything. He probably barely knows how to read, probably above a fourth, fifth grade level, watching him struggle reading anything. So they don't have to worry about him finding the information.
Yeah. Well, we know Donald Trump fired the Labor Statistics Commissioner, a woman by the name of Erica McIntyre. Well, he hired a new one. I don't know if you heard this. He hired a new Labor Statistics Commissioner. Did you hear that?
No.
Trump has nominated E.J. Antony, an economist from, get this, the Heritage Foundation, that group that Donald Trump knew nothing about. So he's got a new statistician, commissioner, E.J. Antony, who's part of an accountant or economist from the Heritage Foundation. So the question is, what's going to happen? Is this guy going to come in and deal with the real numbers? Because the commissioner doesn't really calculate the numbers. They basically look it over and they report it. That's what they do. Now, is EJ Antoni going to jerry rig these numbers to placate Donald Trump? Or is he going to be the next one in line to get fired?
Well, he'll probably be the next one in line to get fired. Because look what happened to the latest IRS director,
Yeah,
fired after 53 days.
yeah,
Donald Trump doesn't keep people around very long unless they capitulate 100%. Now, I don't know if this guy is going to, but as long as his initial numbers, what'll probably happen is they're going to come out with like big numbers for the month initially, and then like the next month they'll have more big numbers, and then they'll come out with a revision for the previous month's numbers buried somewhere in the article. So Donald Trump doesn't see it. He only sees the headline of this huge number of almost impossible number of jobs. So he can brag about how good his month is. And then we'll
yeah.
probably see the better numbers down the road.
Well, the thing about it is that this EJ Antoni, we can kind of guess what he's going to do because he's an economist for the Heritage Foundation. He's going to do whatever Donald Trump tells him. And I have to wonder, remember after he fired the lady and he came out with these new stats, had no clue what they meant. He was just holding up signs. And that was somebody from the Heritage organization that put those together for him. And I'm thinking this EJ Antoni is the guy that did it, and that's why he's got the job. But Donald Trump says, this is a really good one. Look at this. Didn't explain what it was or how it was or how it was figured or anything like that. And, all this guy has to do is try to create charts that are going to make Donald Trump feel like he's winning. But the real problem with this is what Donald Trump did is nobody's going to trust any numbers that come out. And that's a big problem for our economy too, because investors, the Fed, everybody looks at those numbers to try to decide what they're going to do. And if they're getting the wrong numbers or they don't trust the numbers, we're fucked economically.
Oh yeah, nobody should trust the numbers coming out from this administration going forward for anything because they're good. Yes, they are just like they were before, and they're making Donald Trump look bad. I guarantee you, they're not correct. They're probably come of revision, and because wasn't that part of it? Those charts were revisions from his first term. Oh yeah, well we went
Yeah.
back and re-looked and look at how good I did during my first term.
Yeah.
What, why are we rehashing what you did 8 years ago?
Yeah.
Has no bearing on now. It's all about feeding this dipshit's ego. And there's going to come a day when he's gone and the real numbers for all this bullshit are going to come out. And we're going to go, holy fuck, it was worse than we thought.
Yeah, I think we're going to find out a lot of things when he's finally gone. I think ultimately everything comes out on the Jeffrey Epstein thing because there'll be people in power that will insist on it. They have to do it right, though. They have to redact the victims. They haven't even consulted with the victims as to what they should or shouldn't do. They just go ahead and do it because they don't give a fuck about the victims. Um, but I think that's what I'm saying is that so much is going to come out after the fact when he's out of power and MAGA has nothing left. There's going to be a lot of information exposed about Donald Trump, and he will literally become a pariah, and he will be a joke in history, if not a villain.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Like we said earlier, it's gonna be a thing where you're gonna be going through grandpa's closet and you find stuff and you're gonna be shocked and appalled that it's even there. He's gonna
Yeah,
become a pariah, and anybody who's connected to Donald Trump is gonna be on their way out the door. And the Republicans are gonna probably have to start rebranding. Um, they might not have to rebrand their full name, like their full party name, but you're going to probably see them out of power for a little bit as they start to retool and, race by race, start running other people who are not connected to Donald Trump. Because you got to give it some time to get away from that mentality.
right.
And in the meantime, Democrats, if they play their cards right, could set themselves up for power for a.
Well, we're coming toward the end here, and I just want to bring this up and see what you thought about this. I was watching an interview with Robert Reich, who was an economist and smart guy and was part of Obama's administration. And he said, for all the bad that's going on now, at least historically, like, with the Depression and all that stuff, when you have people going radically right and things go horribly wrong, usually on the other side, we come out with a far more progressive plan, like we did with the New Deal and FDR. Um, and I have to believe that there has to be something like that just to right the situation. How do you feel about when this is all said and done? Does this country go, all right, fuck this. We're going to go more left, more progressive left, just to try to fix everything?
I think it should.
Yeah.
But I'm saying I think the Democrats, like I keep saying, they could be in power for 20 years. They need to run a fighter candidate who runs on a New Deal style platform, but then they need to take one thing from Donald Trump, just one thing Donald Trump did right, and
What's
that's
that?
speak to the voter on about a fifth or a sixth grade level.
And talk about doing something for them. The standard establishment politics is not going to work. Hopefully, they learned a lesson the last few elections. There has to be some things done for the middle class and the people, especially the young people in this country, because as much as the economy looked good during Joe Biden's thing, we still got a lot of people making no money, being saddled with huge debt for student loans or hospital bills. And if you do that, and they're the majority of this country, the economy is going to fail. So the Democrats really need to figure out how to take care of the millennials and the Gen Zs and send more money back to the middle class. Otherwise, people aren't going to be buying this shit.
Wasn't it? Was it H.W. Bush? Was it Papa Bush that said it? It's the economy, stupid.
Yeah.
Wasn't that? Wasn't
Yeah, I
yeah?
think.
I mean, it is. It is. If the economy is shit, it doesn't matter what the Democrats need to fix the economy for the everyday person. Like I said, with a New Deal style idea, but still mixing it with the fifth or the sixth grade level, because I think half the time their policies would benefit everybody else. But the way they talk about it, they lose a lot of people. Their eyes gloss over and they don't know what's being actually discussed because they're not following. Donald Trump comes out, talks at a fifth grade level, says nothing of substance about doing anything that would help anybody. But I promise I'm going to lower your grocery bill. Doesn't need to care how. And he gets votes. So Democrats speak at that lower level, get it done, and help the middle and lower classes. And they could be in power for a long time, but they just got to do it.
Actually, I must say this. There's one other thing I think the Democrats have to do. Whoever is their candidate, they've got to do one other thing that Donald Trump did. This whole politics as usual and policy and all that stuff doesn't work. Not in this culture. We need to create a brand in whoever is the leader. We got to make them culturally acceptable, culturally popular. And it sounds silly, but that's the world we live in.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. The other thing they need to do is something that, as an old school politician, Joe Biden wouldn't do. And I mentioned it before. Joe Biden never crowed about any of his accomplishments.
Yeah.
Passes infrastructure. We heard about it for a couple of days, never heard about it. I mean, you heard about it a little bit, but he didn't bring it back up again very much. You need to get somebody out there getting shit done, but then talking about the shit they're getting done and bragging themselves up a little bit so people hear about it. People remember that all this shit got done and not just hope your accomplishments speak for themselves.
Well, they don't. They think it's distasteful, and I don't want to brag and all that stuff. But you have to understand, at least 49% of this country is fucking stupid. So you have to address them, like you say, at a fifth or sixth grade level. They aren't smart. They're too lazy to look into anything. So you got to slap them in the face with the facts and make them fall in love with you. That's what Donald Trump did.
Exactly. We need to, but talk to them at a lower level, hit them with facts and truth, and then tell them what you're going to do to make things better, and then do it. That's the
Yeah.
simple thing, and they could be in power for a long time. Um, and as far, dealing with the policy stuff, yeah, that's great. Okay, talk policy to some degree, big world stuff, but you can still talk policy without doing it in a way that everybody's eyes gloss over and they get bored and they get lost. And maybe that's what people like you and me are for, is we break
Yeah.
it down to an everyday level. I think that's why people like our videos, is we talk, about it in a way that makes it make sense.
Right.
Um, so they need to be doing these things to get things moving in a positive direction. And once they do, it's going to be like Obamacare. The
Yeah.
Affordable Care Act has now been around since, what was it? 2012, I
Yeah. I
think.
think so. Yeah.
No, before that, 2010, somewhere in there. People love it now. Now that it's
Yeah.
actually been put in place, for the most part, there are some issues. It's not perfect, but they like it. Democrats need to also stay the course with some of these things and not get too caught up in the immediate reactions of the people don't like it and go, oh, fuck out, and have to change course. And, you can't be too populist on the other side of it either.
No. The last thing I'll say is we got to be louder than the Republicans too. That's not always been the case. It sounds crazy, but they've been the loudest and it's obviously worked for them. So now we got to get loud as well. And that's easy for people like you and me, but the rest of the politicians need to pick it up a bit. All right, Eric, I'm going to wrap up the Rational Boomer podcast. Thank you for coming on. I was looking forward to this. You are, with everybody that comes on the show, I learn a lot, but I specifically learn a lot with you about the specifics and the details. So thank you for making your time available.
Well, thank you for having me. I love doing the podcast. Like making it work when it fits in my schedule. For those of you looking for me, I am Analytical Iowan on both TikTok and YouTube. Anything I put on TikTok, you can find on YouTube. Encourage you to go check me out in either spot. And if you find me in one, there is a link tree that will lead you to my other platforms, as well as there's an affiliated creators link I'll link to a few other people on there as well. Um, so we can all find each other as we navigate through social media.
Exactly. And, I recently had Will on yesterday, I think. I had Ed on a few days ago, and I had Denise on. Denise isn't a creator, I don't think, but Ed and Will and you are. They've been on the show many times. And every time I have you on the show, it's very popular. People have great comments. So, in the case with Will or Ed or Eric, if you're not following them by now, what the fuck are you doing? Jesus Christ. What do I gotta fucking do? Follow these guys on YouTube or follow them on TikTok. And if you like them here, you're going to like them all the time. So by all means, check that out. For those listening, thank you for taking the time. I hope you have a great day, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow.